He said not a word when they taunted him, charged him, and found him guilty, but when he placed a single call on a phone, everything changed. What kind of man has the power to shake a courtroom, never having used a raised voice? If that is a question that will stay in your mind, then you are exactly where you ought to be. Let me take you back to the moment he walked into that courtroom. Alone, misjudged, underrated, and with a secret nobody could see coming. The door creaked wide with the low hush of worn wood, and the breathless, excited hush a few heads lifted up. Most didn't. Men like him no longer got much attention, but he came slow and steady, not uncertainly, but purposefully, as though time itself curved ever so slightly around him, and no other human being in that courtroom owed to rush it. His name was Robert, Bobby Clay, 79 years old, despite his physique still retaining the solidity of a man who had borne heavier loads than bricks. He sported a dark green flannel shirt, creased but worn, and trousers, bleached by a lot of winters. His boots creaked at the seams but lovingly looked after, spoke of a man who would not face the world anything less than whole. In his weathered palm he wore a felt hat, soft and creased by years of utilized, cradled like a veteran soldier would hold a flag, and not for display but for memory. As he came in to the defense table, whispers began, not subdued, not open, but sly, as usual. Another intruder. Again, here we go. Why waste court time on this one? Robert Clay didn't blink. He had heard it all before, in bus stations, in waiting rooms, at doors he once constructed, but was no longer invited through. He gripped them, dug his head into the table, folded his hands together in silent reverence, and looked up with his eyes, not to the judge, not to the ceiling, but directly ahead, firm, unmoving. The docket listed his crime, unlawful possession of condemned property. The court saw only a crime. What they couldn't see was the truth. Robert did not stand. He did not expand a speech. He lifted his eyes, serene and earthed, and spoke in plain tones. "I'll speak when you're ready to listen." The judge leaned back scornfully. He stretched lazily out for the gavel as a man would swat to fly. He did not find worth noting, but in the silence which descended, the courtroom started to feel something, disquieting tremor preceding a ground shift. The judge barked again. "Mr. Clay, are you answering or wasting time?" Robert blinked slowly, and then answered in a voice so firm that made walls thinner. "That house, it was mine. I assisted in building the city." The judge laughed. "Build the city? That's wealthy." The other side, young reporter Daniel Cortez, his fingers twitching over his smartphone, ready to say something snarky. Old man tells him he built the city. Courtroom chuckles, but there was something in Robert's voice that made him stop, because it didn't sound like boasting, it sounded like remembering. Robert continued, "I had a pencil before I had a book. I built walls to hold up the broken rooms, maybe to keep the weeping spaces safe. That took in people's last breaths with dignity." His voice remained soft, but each word fell into place like a stone. "I spaces built to make us well. Now I'm sitting before the walls of judgment." The courtroom never gasped, it merely breathed a little slower. Sophia Patel blinked rapidly, the ancient memory fighting its way upward. Daniel Cortez placed his phone gently on the desk. Judge Baxter rapped on the file anxiously. "So what you feel? Your history excuses your breaking and entering." Robert Clay looked back. "In goodwill. Only an enormous tiredness." "No, sir. I'm explaining the law has a flaw of memory." The words laid heavy on the room, heavier than any gavel. Judge Baxter grumbled about sentimentality and rapped his gavel without ceremony. 30 days in county jail. The punishment came hard and flat. Robert did not flinch. He only looked at his scuffed leather watch, then raised his eyes.